What's up, beautiful people? Kirby Hasseman here, and in this video I intend to tell you the behind-the-scenes story of the Renaissance on Main. That's this building that Amy and I renovated here in Coshocton County. And let me just tell you, as I give you the behind the scenes, it all started with an auction.
Well, it was an interesting day. We went in to buy a parking lot, and when that didn't end up happening, we had talked about this building. Not really talked about buying it, but talked about how it was a detriment to our community and that it was not good.
There were multiple properties actually on the auction block that day, and so I can't remember the exact order of it, but I do remember sitting beside you, and when your hand raised for the bid, going, oh my, I think they're gonna do this. And that was exciting, but probably a little scary too, because I had been in the building and I knew what you guys were up against. So
I thought I remembered you being interested in a parking lot of some sort. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just tagging along. And all of a sudden, a bidding starts for a completely different building. And Dad is raising his thing, and they're going back and forth, and you can just see, I can just remember my head just being like, watching back and forth, and then everything closes and it's such a quick process. All of a sudden I was like, what just happened?
I thought you guys were crazy. Just to be completely truthful, not even just from the perspective of being the Port Authority executive director, but there was a part of me thought you guys were totally insane and had lost your minds, but then there was an overwhelming gratefulness too, that you guys have been members of the community. You have great established buildings here on Main Street that you care for. I was excited. So it was kind of a weird whirlwind of emotions, I think, at first.
Now, once we bought the building at the auction, I gotta tell you, we had the best of intentions, but we really had to figure out what were we gonna do next.
What is this building really like? What are we getting into? I didn't know what, I had never seen it. Kirby, you had seen it, but I had no idea what it was like and what kind of adventures awaited.
I was walking through the toilet aisle in Our Hardware, and this very energetic blonde woman come up to me that I had never met in my life, and she said, I am Amy Hasseman. And she said, we bought a building on Main Street, and I thought maybe somebody told me that maybe you could help me with some projects. And that was about 32 months ago, and I did a project this morning.
Well, we spent the first year basically just plugging holes, and we ran out of fingers quickly. There was a lot of leaks, from fixing radiators that were spraying on walls to literal leaks in the ceiling to bugs crawling up and out of the walls. There was just, the remnants of tenants. We had a few tenants here and there, and we had to figure out who was there, who had paid, who had not paid. We didn't have keys, so we had to track down keys for the building. There was just a lot of figuring things out during that first year, and really it was just a whole point of stabilizing it. We've got a loan from the Port Authority to help us just to stabilize, to increase the lighting, to make it safe, to get new keys. Really that was the focus of the first year, was just getting it under control.
Oh, it was dark, it was dreary, it was very outdated. I mean, I think the kitchen appliances were probably put in here in the 30s or 40s. They were old, teal colored, pink colored, and everything had been just patched. Nothing had been fixed right, I remember there was carpeting down the middle of the hallway, there was linoleum down the middle of the hallway and carpeting come up the walls. And I thought, what is this? So there was something come up, and I come down here to fix something, and I walked in here and I thought, oh my God, they're not going to be slumlords, and it was bad. It was bad. I mean, there was drain pipes from the corner over to the kitchen sink for showers, and it was bad. And the farther we tore into it, the worse it got.
It was awful, and kind of scary, in all honesty. Was able to look past some of that to see some of the potential that was there, but overall just felt very overwhelming.
There were previously drug dealers and it was dark and dingy, and scary.
We did start renovating one apartment just to see what it could look like if we cleaned it up and painted it, and that was really before we had any aspirations of doing anything huge at that point. We were just trying to see what it would look like with, you know, a fresh coat of paint, some new carpet, and it really did. It was decent. I was on a very tight budget at that point because we hadn't gotten any loans or anything like that. So found some cabinets on Facebook, and we cleaned it up and made it look nice. Now that we rented that one out, and we eventually started over again, and we put in all new cabinets in there to match the rest of the building. In the process of doing that apartment, that's when I soon learned about the historical tax credit grant that was available, and I think that's really what threw us into the next phase of the project. Seeing that there was some grant money available, we had to come up with the funding for everything up front, so there was a lot of paperwork and planning and thinking out the project that went into the next step of that. So that's really kind of how it went forward.
I was thinking, does she have enough money? Is the checkbook big enough to do what needs to be done, or are we going to do a little bit and quit? And you can ask her. I'm not one to quit. You know, when we're done, I want it done right, and then I'll leave. You know, but I thought, you know, she kept saying, "What do you think this will cost? What do you think that'll cost?" And I told her, I said, when you're all said and done, I told her 3 years ago, when you're all said and done, you'll have $500,000 in this building. And I don't think I missed it very far. So, yeah, you know, I went down the basement. Every time something happened, we had to go shut the water meter off underneath Carol's. I mean, every time something happened, there was no shut-offs for any apartments. There was no shut-offs under any sinks. And the one day, the funniest thing that ever happened here was the day that she was up there in 20. And I said, if you're going to tear that shower out, don't bump the faucets. And I hear this, oh my God, shut the water off. and I run down the basement and shut the water off. And when I come back out the front door to come back up, and it was a day like today, there's a lady walking up Main Street with an umbrella because the water's pouring out over the front of the building. And I said to her right then, we need to do some plumbing. So we did.
We had to adjust what we were doing in the project because of the historical tax standards. The carpet, for example. I had planned to just replace the carpet in all of the rooms, and learning from them, carpet wouldn't have been available when this building was built, and so carpet is not an option going forward. So we had to have all of the floors refinished, which hindsight was a beautiful thing. They turned out absolutely glorious, and I'm so glad that that's the route that we went. We were very careful not to open up any walls. We did very little changing of things, because if you open up walls and expose existing doors or other things, then you have to go through and do a whole process of exposing those and making sure that they are historically correct and things like that. So we were careful not to do too much outside the realm, because some of that stuff can get very expensive, and that wasn't in our budget to do. But it was still a good learning process, and I learned a lot of historical learned about that kind of stuff along the way.
When we got the plumbers done, and we started putting the bathrooms and the rooms back together, and I saw the blueprints for the kitchen, I thought, we're going to make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Up till then, it was like, do I want to go back there tomorrow? There was a lot of afternoons I walked in the house and I told my wife, I said, man, I don't know. You know, I'm 60 years old, it might get me. But because of her energy, I come back. That's really a lot of days why I showed up. You know, she paid me. I understand, I got paid, but you know, there was something more than pay.
After we got approval on the historic tax credit, it was great news, and Amy, Mike, and the rest of the gang went straight to work, full speed ahead.
So once we got the approval, then we started full steam ahead. We had done some demo. We were allowed to do demo. We just weren't allowed to do forward progress. So we continued gutting each rooms. The kitchens and bathrooms were an open book. We were allowed to do whatever we needed to there just because we needed to bring them to current day standards. So we took out a lot of old tile and things like that were in the showers in order to make them as big as possible. They're still not real big showers, but we needed to maximize that space as much as possible. So we took a lot of that kind of stuff out. Oh, I don't know how many buckets full of plaster and rebar, the stuff that we took out of the building, lots and lots of work that way. But then we started putting everything back, painting, replacing ceiling tile where needed, getting the guys in to install the showers, putting in the flooring in the bathrooms, installing toilets, and just really that's where everything started to do. And then we went from one apartment to the next, to the next, to the next, and it was a very long process, but it was kind of cool to see. The apartments are all similar, but all very different at the same time. None of them have the exact same layout, or none of them have the exact same measurements either. Even from one floor to another, you'd think that they would be identical, and they weren't. We found that out, but it was kind of cool to see the transformation.
I mean, we got it, we got the second floor done, and then we come upstairs and it was like, oh my God, do we have to do this again? And it was like, I don't know if I got 7 more apartments in me, but the good part about coming up here, we'd done it downstairs. So if I wanted to figure out what I was going to do, I walked down and looked around. Well, I figured out we were going to do the whole thing when all 14 kitchens and cupboards showed up in one truck. And I thought, my God, how are we going to keep this straight, But they were all marked. I mean, and when, these ones went to the second floor, and the guys on the, I think the guys on the cupboard truck probably quit when they got home. But at the end, when we finally, at the end, it sort of come together quick. At least I thought it did. I mean, we got up here and we got some things done, and we got Kobe, got the floors and got out of our road, and we got the kitchens in, and it come quick. Of course, by the time I got up here, I could put 2 kitchens in a day, because the girl from Coshocton Lumber that laid the kitchens out made it very easy on me. I mean, it was a matter of, this one goes here, you measure this far, and this one goes here, she did a really good job.
So I think when we originally started this process, we thought that we would just rent these out as regular apartments, because I think that there is a big need for apartments in the area. However, in the process, we had, personally through Hasseman Marketing, we had a need for, there was a group in town that needed a place to stay, and the local hotel was full. And the apartment was ready, but we hadn't furnished it or anything like that. And we'd kind of toyed with the idea of, doing Airbnb or Verbo or something like that with the apartments. And that whole need kind of threw us into that thing. So the one weekend, I think we purchased all of the furniture and the decorations, and it's crazy how much goes into one apartment. You've got to come up with plates and silverware and towels and just everything that you would use when you check into a hotel or what you would use on a daily basis. So it took us some time to come up with that, but over a weekend or so, we furnished that apartment and got it looking kind of cool. So they used it that weekend, and then we put it on Airbnb, and it went. And it kept going, and so then I changed another one, and we did that, and I'm really so tickled that we ended up going that route, because these apartments are not huge. They're fairly small. They were built as hotel rooms, and some of them were merged together, so there's a couple hotel rooms, but they're still small apartments. So for long-term living, probably not ideal for most people, because it doesn't have a ton of space. But for hotel-type rooms that you're going to stay in for a night or maybe a week or even a month when they're furnished, they're ideal, because you don't have a lot of upkeep, and it's just simple in there. And so I think they worked out perfect for the Airbnb, and I think it was a blessing that kind of came to us in that fashion.
So at the end of this project, I mean, what do you, they've asked you about it up till now. So now when people say, how did it turn out? What's your answer?
Tremendous. Above and beyond anything I could ever thought of. Beyond anything I could ever thought of. When I got the first kitchen done in the first apartment, which was 20. And we knocked the concrete wall out. 20 had a wee little door that stepped up in a kitchen, and we literally took the concrete wall out and opened it up. And I got them cupboards and that sink in. I knew it was getting better.
I think probably the best part of the project is just seeing the transformation. I mean, we took this building that was truly scary, unsafe, and just downright disgusting. And within 2 years, we had it. And 2 years might sound like a long time for somebody who's on a contracting team, but really it was Mike and I and a few others, scattered here and there that did this project. And for that amount of time and to be able to walk in and make the changes that we did, I thought it was pretty remarkable. I mean, we had a very small budget. I mean, we started this project out at $250,000. That's what I turned into the historical tax credit, is what I thought it was going to spend. Now, it turned out with the plumbing and a couple of the other increases that we had, that we spent almost $400,000 on just the remodeling part of it. But the transformation was just crazy, and really it's just a cosmetic upgrade, but I think it just made a big difference.
Now look, I'm really proud of this project, but I get way too much credit for it. This was Amy's project, and it was really cool to watch her take on this giant renovation as a woman in Coshocton County.
Yeah, I think at first that there were lots of doubt, around me. I'm certainly one of the few females that would be walking into the lumber company ordering lumber and things like that. And so, I got lots of looks, and I still do sometimes, and that's okay. I think it's kind of cool. I follow a lot of people on social media that are females doing a lot of the same things that I am, and so I think it's kind of cool. I've learned from that. It is a different world. It's totally different because there's not a lot of us doing it, but I was kind of proud of the fact that I was doing it. I can hold my own, and that made me feel better that I was learning something and was contributing in ways that I didn't even know was possible.
It was super cool. She turned into Bob the Builder. She went from doing a desk job, literally, well, of course not just sitting at a desk, but a basic closer to a desk job, to literally turning into Bob the Builder. And she learned how to use every tool in the book. She learned how to drywall. She learned, anytime I had an issue, even when I was living there, I could literally be like, hey mom.
She's very inspiring. It seemed like there wasn't a day that she wasn't struggling with something, whether it was just the drywalling, which she hates to do, or it was taking out a toilet, which hadn't been done in how many years, and that can be just disgusting. But also, it just took a toll on her body, and sometimes mentally too. So I think it's really, really cool to see all of the things that she did and she continued to do throughout.
Does it matter that it was done by a woman?
Yeah, I actually think that it does, because, I'm gonna cry saying this. Okay, so I had the opportunity to sit down with a sophomore in high school in the last month and help her complete her leadership for Coshocton County application. And what she told me was that she wants to be Amy. She wants to be the person that makes change in this community. And that to me was the most incredible, inspirational thing. If we can show our youth that they can be a part of this community and that they can make incredible change, not just for their generation, but for the generations to come, that's what this is all about.